could see what I see, you'd lose your breath for sure. You are the perfect replications and the ones that I adore. I carved you from a diamond and polished you with love. Then I sent you out beyond the veil so you might choose the love. Sweet creations, your beauty makes me weak. Oh, my sweet creations, the whole world's at your feet. And one day soon you'll see it. You could see what I see, you'd never lose your smile, for you walk in thy own footsteps when you walk that second mile. These are more than words, my love, this is poetry divine. My signature is everywhere, for all of life is mine. One day you'll see what I see, and you'll come to realize that every tear you ever cried I wiped from my own eyes. I know your every feeling, and I felt your every joy. But you and I are one, my child, still illusion was the choice. If you could see what I see, you'd lose your breath for sure. You are the perfect replications, you're the ones that I adore.
Good morning and welcome to another day of love, and we're going to explore the virtue of unity. Good morning, Sister Ashika.
Good morning, Mishabel. If the host could. Okay. Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you. So unity. I was just thinking that, in this world, the one beautiful thing that exists is this whole idea of partnership and having one other as your companion. It always seems to make things sound like, no, it feels like it's the right thing. Nobody wants to actually be alone. And definitely, in creating the partnership, there's definitely something that we need to find that creates a connection. Like, in a partnership, people bring their specialities in and then they cooperate with each other.
Mm.
But today, instead of people cooperating with each other, people are actually leaning off each other. And so it's a little bit where it becomes a pressure. And if you take something, then you have to equally give back. And so there's more trade-off than this divine cooperation that one would talk about. So those are the thoughts in my mind in terms of the quality of love that is really something that we can't be without, because it what brings us together. So,
Beautiful. I think that this expression of unison and a partnership, because we speak of duality, but when even if you get two sides of a coin, like they say, they come together, makes it a whole. And I think that's what that whole expression. I'm never too sure how the physical drawing of the heart came about, because the actual heart doesn't look like it. Because if you say you put your fist, then you get to see what your heart actually looks like. But I mean, everyone's just doing these things these days, like creating these hearts, the hand. And that unison, that two parts that come together and then look as if they're one, and that merging. You touched on this, that it's cooperation that happens between the two, and the feeling is that there's a similarity, there's something that's the same, that's an attraction that pulls one to another. And if we look at this in the sense of who am I, the living being, and the greatest attraction would be to the one who actually holds all of that within themselves, and that will be the divine being. And that pull and that attraction draws me into that relationship and that partnership. And then, we've used this word along our journey of equanimity, in that equalness of being together. And I feel like on this journey with the living being, I, and then with the divine, and if the divine has everything in that level of purity, when I forge this relationship again, I create the space where I give myself permission to be loving again, completely, unconditionally. And I want to throw this in a bit. I know somebody very well who always used to say to me, and sometimes still does say to me, we say love is unconditional, but you love this one more and you love that one less. And it's how we feel. But if we truly want to know the ability to unconditionally love, we first have to start loving the self. And then the self has to be able to be empowered with the divine being and that connection. And that merger then allows me to then share that out. So that unison that happens is from that perspective. I'd like you to share, we say we connect with, and in this relationship of the one who is my partner, my most beloved God. And there's some expressions you see of people, they dance and joy constantly because they just stay in the space. And when they're in love, nothing phases them. Everything is right with the world. And to put it in inverted commas, people can get away with murder around them because they are just so absorbed in this energy. Explore this with us.
So first, let's do a little bit of science and the image of osmosis. That is something we're all familiar with. So when two things come together, there's the aim of an equality that will be created. So the natural nature is that if something is high concentrated, something's low concentrated, the two next to each other will come to a point where they become equal. And so when you speak about attraction, for me, yes, it's a word that we are familiar with, but in the world, there is this feeling of always coming to a point of equilibrium. We're balancing ourselves out. And so in my life, if I am like lacking something, I'm in a way pulled to someone who can fulfill that. And so it ends up being needs-based rather than, I'm in love with you and I, can't stay without you. I can't stay without you because you fill the gap in me in a sense. So maybe it's sounding a little bit rough at the moment, but why I want to just bring this up is that when we reach that point where you said, I have this total understanding and acceptance of myself, so I love who I am, then there's already an equilibrium within me. So then I don't need love. So this idea that we can't live without love, it's a little bit not 100% correct. The love that is essential in our life is so that it comes to the point that we have a full acceptance and understanding. We don't have this feeling of being separate from other people and keep ourselves alone and aloof and stuff like that. So the loving element that we so need in our world today is to be that being that vibrates on a level that belongs, that connects, that harmonizes, that unifies, those virtues that are so beautiful when we interact with each other. So if I need to bring that state in my life again, if I reach out to anyone who is seeking themselves, then obviously some things will be fulfilled within myself, but I won't be able to get everything that brings me back to that level. And so the divine is really that being that, if you might call it now, I'm going to use the word blueprint, but actually has the perfection of each one of us within me. And so when I connect to the divine, I can actually see me. I can see the real whole me without exception. There's no limitations to this. And this is perhaps what is so amazing and what attracted me to this practice of meditation was that I wasn't to come to this relationship with the divine as someone I was like standing down here and saying, please make me good, please do this. And it was nothing to do with this, but it was an invitation to have a glimpse of myself. That if I had the courage to open up my eyes and look into the divine, have that courage, I was going to see something that I always knew existed, but I myself forgot. And it's so beautiful because this is what happens when people fall in love. They make contact with each other, whether it's through eyes or whatever, and they feel like $1 million. And so this idea about when we feel that we have love in our lives, we are completely unbeatable. Nobody can do anything to us because there's a feeling of having received something inside of me that makes me feel worthy. But it's a temporary worthiness because it's a give and take. But when we come to this relationship with the divine and we can claim that right of being who I am, step into my self-respect, I will not need anything from anyone. That makes me then a powerful instrument to share. So when I give, it won't be conditional. It won't be like and dislike preference. It will really come from the stage that truly inside of the self, there's nothing. I'm content, I'm happy with my being. And so I can just be and allow you to be you. And that kind of love is really what is required. And we're capable of that. We can just realize for ourselves how really beautiful we are. and that everything that we need already exists inside of us. And again, stepping inward and making time to explore and appreciate that which is inside of me. And when I explore them, I must hold it in my consciousness, then to see how that energy works. When I speak with that vibration, when I even use my eyes to look at another with that same attitude. When you're eating something nice and somebody's looking at you, you get the feeling they're not appreciating you at all. They're thinking, how can they get, and they don't have to say a word. People's eyes speak tons. And so we are communicating constantly by whatever's inside our inner state of being. We're communicating through the vision, that the eyes, the glance that's coming through. I like this word that I've learned. It's called drishti. It's how I see things, the vision with which I look into everything and everyone. So that's the one thing that's lovely to know, that I can use whatever's inside of my being. I do the way I express it. As we said yesterday, love is really the doing. It's an expression. So it comes through my eyes. It comes through when I'm holding. Even if somebody hugs you, sometimes they're crushing your bones. Now, whether that's because they love you a lot or is they needing something from you, and they're squishing it out of you. So there's that loving embrace that's really a sharing and a warmth, and one that's like pushing the life out of you because they need that feeling of being comforted. A handshake. Everything that we do through our senses, when there's an inner state of being, our touch will be kind and gentle. There'll be a softness. It's very beautiful. And that is something we are capable of when we stop needing and wanting, when we step into that inner being of who we really are, and then it flows out in a very lovely way. And we won't need compensation at all, because within that being that I am, the source of all those qualities exist. We just close the door to it. So we need to open the door.
Definitely. As you're sharing this, at this time especially, because of the lack of physical touch, and the social distancing that one has to practice, it's brought a lot of disheartenment in many a person, and we see that. And so understanding this connection, that beside the physical touch, how do I touch each and every one who is in my life with that love? It can only come from a place when I'm feeling I am touched and I am held safe. And I think if we explore that ourselves as individuals, a lot deeper and stronger, that even through the medium of like this, for example, that one can actually experience that physical hug and go beyond our senses of experiencing love, which is that greatest union again. And strongly, that connection and staying in that space of being loved and loving, because that's the exchange of one. Because here again, we have an equal partnership of one who is loved but being loving. And I think if it's in our control, then the being loving is going to be the action that we need to sort of strengthen within the self. And as we spread that, and as you powerfully shared, that this vision that we have then, that others get to experience, like the lights from our eyes, is many times reflected by many people saying, oh, that one's got a sparkle in their eye, something must be happening. And that lightness, that physical lightness and the lightness of light itself is seen then. And maybe it's something that we strongly need to think about, not just on a level of very flat and a dull energy, but one that's vibrant and that's beautifully allowing each one of us to bloom into that space of giving and sharing, but I first need to give myself up to being one in this partnership. Um, Share a little bit more on maybe there's some other things that souls can actually do right now to feel loved and be loving.
You know, our whole spring challenges brings that image of when you're working with a bouquet. And to make a real lovely arrangement, you know, we picked the greeneries, then we got the little fillers, and then we got the main flowers and all of it. And to be really honest, you know, we could have all the roses and all the big king proteas and whatever. But if all the little fillers and the little things are not there, you know, it just doesn't quite look good. And so, firstly, you know, when we want to bring and embrace this quality of love in our lives, is not to look at ourselves through the roles of other people or other individuals. Um, it takes a lot of courage to know that even if I'm just the filler, you know, there is such a significance in my part, and that nobody, that king flower can never be a filler. Just wouldn't work actually. So the beautiful thing is to be able to accept that that's the role I play. You know, that little washer that puts the tap together, when it's not there, water will just leak. So a whole system can be messed up just because a little washer is not in place. And it doesn't really matter why are we weighing one task to be better than the other task, one role from another role, because in our world, this whole idea of everyone doing something to make this big thing happen in a huge puzzle, one little piece missing doesn't complete the puzzle. So for me to, rather than wanting to be something, to understand who I really am and how that purpose of my being is the real purpose. It's not about trying to find a label to it or finding whatever it is that we try and hold on to that gives us identity. So letting go of the identity is perhaps the first step. And we don't need to be in the book of the who's who, but I really do exist, and that's the first thing to acknowledge. Then the second thing that is really beautiful as well is that to have the courage to know when I'm not complete. You know, so for example, in my flaws and all, like you said, what's and all, I need to be able to be conscious that that's the where I've arrived at. But my intrinsic nature is complete. So when I'm observing time at the moment, and time at the moment is really telling us it's 3 minutes to 12, which the party is over. You know, so we've done all the things, we've gone there, we've achieved everything. Now it's the return journey. And so we're coming back to that 12 o'clock, and where we go back to the idea that we have to take stock of what's happening. And when we do that, what happens is that, you know, there's an easy let going when you know the job's done. So we don't need to start back at the drawing board and start again and creating. In a way, we need to start appreciating what has happened. So appreciation is an important quality. I've done that, I've gone that, this is where we're at now. Where I go from here is perhaps the most important thing that I do. And for all of us, you want to try and sort out the mess, you're going to just feel really hopeless. But just think, this is where I am at this moment, and it's the perfect spot. What I do with it is actually going to mark my power. And the way to actually deal with that is, again, don't look at anybody. Just look at what is in your plate, what you got. And when you become quiet and still using what you have, you'll be amazed that you can transform all the things that we have into something amazing. And so it's really a wonderful opportunity to be in the laboratory of our own mind, or in our own little gardens, and start really appreciating the things I have, and then giving it the attention. We know that when we give something attention, it grows. So giving it that constant attention. For me, discipline is not a very, I mean, I know it's a virtue, but I don't put it on a very high list for me, because for me, maybe still in my own psyche, the discipline is a little bit rigid. And I want to still explore that word to find the right meaning, because I think there's another meaning to it, the way it should be translated. But being constant and regular, is really the most powerful thing I can do for myself. To always arrive, to always be there, come hell or high water, I'm going to be there. So that level at which I begin to know myself, to depend and trust myself. So those are the beginning steps. So remember, now I'm not asking us to have anything. It's just whatever we have, just use it regularly, with attention, and then everything changes. So, no need for any rocket science, no need for any intellectual expansion. When you go inside, you know everything. And so bring that out with trust and faith, and start using it and give it attention more and more, and see how it grows. The capacity of us as individual is more amazing, more unlimited than we can even perceive. We're bigger than we're looking, and we're afraid of that, because we say, oh, we don't want the ego to come out. But somehow we know that when we do step into that power, we're going to have to stop being lazy. We're going to have to stop making excuses. So it is something else that requires us to, in a sense, say, right, am I ready to be? And then give ourselves that opportunity. But what's amazing is that it's not hard work. Absolutely not hard work. And it is not something that is going to give you that feeling, oh, never again. It's a very beautiful thing that when you come to that point after a challenge or a difficulty, and you touch your truth again, it's so rewarding that you can do it again and again and again.
Wonderful.
And you can take us in and up.
Yeah. So let's give ourselves some me time with the one who is the most beloved.
Ashika, before I quickly go away, I just had this one feeling, never lose sight of that, like lovers and beloveds, they like to look at each other. So for me, the beloved is someone we just need to gaze in all the time. Because when we lose sight of ourselves through the eyes of the beloved, we'll see what we forgot.
Beautiful. So just breathing very deeply and acknowledging the self as this living being. Move and shift like the gentle winds inward. Experience the gentle breeze. And as this air within the self circulates, find yourself in the space with your most beloved, this eternal partner in a relationship of pure love. This is an opportunity now to retake my vows together. My vow to be loving and to be loved. feeling the self standing next to the divine, both sparkling, shining points of light. Experience the unity that you've entered into, that you've been in, facing one another. You once again rejoice from the depths of your heart, blooming into this most beautiful, loving being. Way up high here, as you look down, you see and experience how, as you radiate this love, every other being that comes into your contact experiences the same. To give them permission to be loving. A great belonging starts to happen again. A unison beyond two. A unison of family. Knowing this, I hold in my vision today constantly my partner in pure love, the divine. Very air that I breathe is suffused with this love. And in the exchange, everything around me shifts into the same space. I am carried by these winds, floating along, powerfully loving, powerfully caring. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Love cultivates unity. Today, I open my heart to connect to the unlimited source of love. The divine source of love draws me up to become an equal partner, to be divine, to be divinely loving. This divine union allows me to be benevolent, to use my powers to forgive and forget, to stay in the elevated awareness that everything is beneficial. So today, there's lots of opportunity to touch green with our eyes. Let us even touch green with our hands. But as we do it, pause for a moment and connect with that power inside that connects me to that source of divinity, and feel the divinity flow through you. Have a beautiful day and see you tomorrow. Om Shanti.